RobertBReich, Beyond Outrage, Expanded Edition: What Has Gone Wrong with Our Economy and Our Democracy, and How to Fix It. Dive into the world of Beyond Outrage by RobertBReich as you explore the unsettling truths about America's economy, democracy, and the ever-widening gap between the rich and the poor. The book highlights the alarming rate at which the wealthy benefit from economic growth, leaving the majority of working and middle-class earners stagnant. With insights into the role tax cuts for the rich played in this growing inequality, Beyond Outrage also examines the influence large corporations have on political campaigns and how business interests often overshadow the well-being of the American middle class. Discover the grim consequences of this disparity on the American economy and health of its society.
The Great Wealth Divide. Over the past 3 decades, the American economy has grown consistently, yet the average worker's wage remains relatively stagnant. This can be attributed to the fact that the rich have reaped the benefits of economic growth and tax cuts, resulting in an increasing income disparity. The wealthy have profited from capital gains, which are taxed at a much lower rate than wages, perpetuating the disparity and placing further financial burden on middle-class workers. Can you believe that in the past 30 years, the average American worker's monthly pay has only increased by $280? Curiously, the national economy has thrived during that time, but who has benefited from that growth? While the working and middle classes have hardly seen their wealth increase, the rich have continued to accumulate more. How much has the divide between the wealthy and the average citizen grown? Back in the 1960s and 70s, the top 1% earned roughly 9 to 10% of the total national income. By 2007, that had skyrocketed to 23.5%. The staggering reality is that the wealthiest 400 Americans currently possess more wealth than the 150 million lowest earners combined. During this time, CEO wages have surged from being 40 times greater than their average workers to an astounding 400 times greater. One could argue that this soaring inequality is a result of tax cuts predominantly benefiting the rich. The Reagan and Bush administrations had implemented tax cuts that significantly dropped the average effective tax rate for the top 1% from 51% in 1958 to 26% in 2008. Additionally, the rich tend to amass much of their income through capital gains sourced from stocks, bonds, or real estate. These are taxed at only 15%, as opposed to the 35% for wages in their tax bracket. On the flip side, income tax for average middle-class workers has actually increased from 15% to 16%. Unfortunately, this wealth disparity continues to persist, leaving the working and middle classes behind as the rich grow richer. The high cost of political influence. The staggering expense of presidential campaigns, reaching $2 billion in the 2012 U.S. election, arises from substantial corporate donations, with businesses anticipating returns on their investments in the form of favorable legislation. This seemingly symbiotic relationship is often justified by the job opportunities corporations bring to Americans. However, this notion is not entirely accurate, as most jobs created by large corporations are outside the United States due to the pursuit of cheap labor, which ultimately disadvantages the American middle class. Presidential campaigns in the United States are undeniably costly affairs, with the 2012 election standing out as the most expensive in history with a $2 billion price tag. This colossal sum is predominantly sourced from the deep pockets of large corporations. However, these generous contributions don't come without strings attached, as businesses expect favorable treatment from the government in return for their financial support. One may wonder if this alliance between politicians and corporations has a silver lining, such as the job opportunities that big businesses can bring to Americans. Unfortunately, this reasoning is far from the truth. The driving force behind corporations is the relentless pursuit of profit, and they seek the cheapest labor possible, which is often found overseas. As a result, the majority of jobs created by these corporations are not within the United States but in foreign countries. A 2012 Wall Street Journal survey revealed that between 2009 and 2011, the 35 largest American corporations generated 333,000 jobs abroad, while only creating 113,000 domestically. Even major companies like Apple, with approximately 43,000 employees in the US, have around 700,000 workers in other countries, primarily in China. This discrepancy not only affects the American middle class but also the country as a whole, as reduced tax revenues leave the government with limited resources to maintain vital public services. Tax cuts versus public services. Although taxes can be burdensome, they play a crucial role in funding essential public services such as schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. However, politicians advocating for tax cuts often don't consider the long-term consequences on public services, which disproportionately impact the poor. For instance, spending on education and infrastructure has dropped significantly, resulting in reduced access to healthcare coverage, food stamps, and public transportation for low-income individuals. Relying on the wealthy to fill the gap with philanthropic efforts is also problematic, as most donations are directed towards cultural institutions and universities, leaving only a fraction available to support the poor and related organizations. It's crucial to strike a balance between reasonable taxation and sustainable support for public services to ensure an equitable society. Reviving America's middle class. Back in 1914, Henry Ford revolutionized the auto industry by tripling the salary of his factory employees. This enabled them to afford Ford cars, converting workers into customers, and leading to soaring profits. This reciprocity between employers and workers laid the foundation for a thriving middle class which drove America's economic success. However, this balance was disrupted in the late 1970s due to tax breaks for the wealthy, which subsequently led to dwindling middle-class wages. The aftermath of the 2008 recession further exacerbated the decline of middle-class wealth, impacting the overall health of the American economy. To revive and maintain a growing economy, it's essential to ensure a robust middle class with adequate purchasing power, as relying solely on the wealthy spending isn't sustainable for economic growth. In the early 20th century, a deal existed between American employers and workers. Workers were paid enough to live decent lives, and their consumption fueled the economy. This symbiotic relationship was instrumental in creating a booming middle class and thriving American economy. Americans with decent incomes could spend on American-made products, leading to more jobs and increased salaries. Unfortunately, this harmonious balance shifted in the late 1970s. Wealthy individuals received considerable tax breaks, resulting in an unequal share of the economy and diminished wages for the middle class. The repercussions of the 2008 recession further exacerbated this problem, leading to a significant decrease in middle-class wealth. For instance, General Electric employees who earned $21 to $32 per hour in 2002 only made $12 to $19 per hour by 2012. Ignoring the decline in middle-class wealth is dangerous for the economy's well-being. A growing economy requires a robust middle class, continuously investing in new products. Relying on the spending of the wealthy is unsustainable, as their consumption plateaus once they've acquired everything they need. Consequently, they shift towards a savings mindset, leading to economic stagnation. Recognizing and addressing the favoritism towards the wealthy elite is crucial for resurrecting the American economy and restoring its once prosperous middle class. Unraveling the Tea Party. The Tea Party movement, often associated with conservative values, reveals itself to be regressive in practice, seeking a return to the 1920s America when the government heavily favored free market policies. Distinguished from moderate Republicans, this group mainly consists of an angry white minority hailing from poor, rural, and heavily conservative regions. Tea Party members exhibit extreme ideologies, resistance to scientific evidence, and an uncompromising attitude, evident in their 2013 government shutdown over disagreements with Obama's budget proposal. The Tea Party movement, a group embedded within the realm of American politics, appears on the surface as strong conservatives but delves deeper into regression. Their desires reflect a longing for 1920s America, a period without social security, labor laws, unemployment insurance, or minimum wage, prioritizing unregulated market policies. Distinct from moderate Republicans, Tea Party members mainly comprise an impassioned white minority from impoverished, rural, and staunchly conservative regions, predominantly in former Confederate Southern states. This difference in origin results in substantial ideological splits, as displayed by a 2011 CNN poll revealing Tea Party members were far more likely than Republicans to oppose abortion or gay marriage under any circumstance. Demonstrating their extremity and unwillingness to compromise, the Tea Party staunchly supported the 2013 government shutdown due to its disagreement with Obama's budget plan, further highlighting their resolute dedication to their regressive goals. Social Darwinism Reborn. The regressive right aims to bring back a pure America, shaped by the principles of social Darwinism, where the government minimally intervenes and citizens are left to their fate. Developed in the 1880s by Yale professor William Graham Sumner, social Darwinism advocates for survival of the fittest. Under this belief, civilization can only progress when it is completely free, without obligations between social classes, and with the unfit weeded out by free market capitalism. The Tea Party embodies this ideology, opposing government assistance for the needy as it obstructs natural selection. An example of such thinking is Ron Paul's 2011 statement defending an uninsured, comatose patient's right to risk his own life due to the lack of insurance. This resurfacing of social Darwinism showcases the perilous direction social and economic policies can take if unchecked. Mobilize for change. Don't just be a passive citizen, make an impact by actively participating in political processes. It's crucial for motivated individuals to band together and start or join movements for meaningful change. Draw inspiration from historical figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, and Nelson Mandela, who inspired great social and political movements. Step out of your ideological bubble and engage with people who hold opposing views to persuade them and achieve real progress. If the current political and economic trends terrify you, it's time to act. Being a citizen involves more than just voting. Real change only comes when we mobilize and hold politicians accountable. Remember Franklin D. Roosevelt's response to a woman demanding actions: "Ma'am, I want to do those things, but you must make me." In order to make politicians listen, we must unite and forge movements that demand their attention. No fancy title or authority is needed, only the drive for change and a passion to energize others. Great social and political changes have been sparked by individuals with undeterred determination. But it's important to seek out those who disagree with us, stepping out of our comfort zones to engage and persuade dissenters. Only then can we create meaningful transformations in our world. Wealth redistribution for progress. Wealthy individuals are urged to contribute more to society through taxation. These resources could be used for essential public investments, such as education and infrastructure improvements. It's time for active citizens to demand and implement these progressive changes for a better future. The wealthy, often benefiting from extraordinary resources, should contribute a significant portion to societal advancement. This primarily entails paying higher taxes than those in lower income brackets. One glaring issue that requires attention is the tax loophole created by capital gains, which allows the 400 richest Americans to pay lower income tax rates than most middle-class workers. This injustice calls for urgent change. In fact, reinstating the income tax rates from the 1950s and 60s, a 70% tax for any income exceeding $1 million, could justifiably address this imbalance. A supplementary measure to consider is implementing a 2% surtax on the assets possessed by the richest 0.5% of Americans, those with more than $7.2 million in wealth. Taking such action could potentially generate approximately $70 billion per year in revenue, thereby offering the means for crucial public investments. The infusion of revenue from these proposed tax reforms provides an opportunity to revitalize underfunded yet pivotal sectors. Two key areas deserving attention are education and infrastructure. Numerous schools struggle with overcrowded classrooms, insufficient access to textbooks and science labs, and teachers receiving inadequate compensation. America's children deserve better, and their education should be a top priority. Improving infrastructure is another vital step forward. The American Society of Civil Engineers evaluated the nation's infrastructure and gave it a disappointing grade of D. Improved funding could mend unsafe roads, transit systems, and other crucial components necessary for societal function and progress. It's time for dedicated citizens to take action, pushing for and supporting these progressive changes. Methods of achieving this transformation vary, but the crucial aspect is making a difference and fostering a future that benefits all Americans.
In conclusion, Beyond Outrage reveals the unsettling reality of America's economy and democracy, showcasing how the rich continue to benefit while the majority of the population suffers stagnant wages and loss of public services. The book highlights the need for more equitable tax policies, as well as the urgent need to invest in public goods, such as education and infrastructure. It serves as a call to action for citizens to become more involved in the political process and to work together to create lasting, progressive change. Ultimately, it is only through collective action and challenging established systems that America can restore its broken economy and democracy.